For section 9.5, we're going to look at systems of linear inequalities. So same type of situation, wanting to know where they overlap because they're inequalities. So we're not going to get an exact answer of x equals 3 or y equals 5. These are going to be x is greater than 2 and such things. So we're going to have to do some shading and that sort of thing. We have already learned how to shade a linear inequality. So when you were just given one, you learned how to put those onto the coordinate plane, but now we're going to put two of them on the same coordinate plane. So that is when we have a system of linear inequalities. It has two or more linear inequalities, and in Algebra 1, we're just going to look at two for right now. Then the solutions of a system is where all of the ordered pairs that make the inequality true, or the inequality, both inequalities true. So we're going to jump right in here. For example 1, we're going to have to solve both equations for y. So I'm going to rewrite the first one here. I'm going to minus x. And we can't do 2 minus x, so we're just going to write 2 minus x. And then we're going to divide by 2. So remember, when we do this, we have to divide both things by 2. So 2 divided by 2 here is 1. And then this is a negative 1 divided by a 2, so that's a negative 1/2 x. And then we're going to have to do the same thing with the bottom equation. Then we're going to add x to both sides. So we're going to have y is less than or equal to 4 plus x. So now we can graph those. The first one here, I'm going to graph with the purple color. Remember, the y-intercept is the number that does not have the variable with it. So that's a 1. So my y-intercept here is 1. My slope is the coefficient of x. So that's negative 1/2. So I'm going to go down 1 and over 2. And I'm going to do that a couple of times just so I can have a better idea of my line. And then in the other direction, I'm going to go up 1 and back 2 a couple of times. Now the inequality symbol here is not underlined, so that tells me this is a dashed line. So I'm going to dash that line. It's not including any point on that line. And then y is greater, so we're going to shade above the purple line because y is greater. And then we're going to do this line here in blue, the number by itself, 4. That's our y-intercept, so we're going to put a dot at 4. And then the number, the coefficient in front of x is our slope, which is a 1 here in this case. So we're going to go up 1 and over 1. So I'm going to put a few extra dots on here. And this inequality is underlined right here. So that means we're going to have a solid line. And then we're going to read that y is less than or equal to. So less than means under the line. So I'm going to shade under that blue line. And our answers are where the two graphs overlap. So in this case, they overlap here, and we want to make this a darker area so that it shows that's where our solutions are. So again, I'm going to do this one more time. We're going to take this top equation and we're going to solve it for y. So I have to add x to both sides. So I have 3 plus x. This one I'm going to have to add x to both sides as well. And I'm going to have negative 5 plus x. And then we're going to graph. So the first one here in pink, our y-intercept is that positive 3, the number by itself. And our slope is in front of x, which would be a 1 in this case. So we have that. Our inequality symbol is not underlined, so this is going to be a dashed line. And as you can see, I didn't do a very good straight line there because I didn't put my extra points on. So I always encourage those extra points. Oh, and I forgot to shade. So y is greater than, we're going to shade above that line. So if you think about sitting on that line, you would sit on that side of it. So that would be on top. Now we're going to shade the other one. Our y-intercept is -5, so a dot at -5. Our slope is 1. It's a positive 1, so up 1 over 1. And our inequality is underlined, so that is a solid line. And y is less than, so we're going to shade underneath of that one. These shadings do not overlap, so that means there is no solution. There is nowhere on this graph that these two lines are ever going to overlap. And then we have one more here. So the top equation, we're going to have to minus x from both sides. So we're going to have y is greater than -4 minus x. And then this one, we're going to minus x as well. So we're going to have y is greater than -1 minus x. So we are going to graph this one in pink. -4 would be my y-intercept. And then in front of the x is a minus sign, so that's like a -1. So my slope is -1, so down 1 over 1. Do a few more points. It's not underlined, so this is a dotted line. And y is greater, so we're going to shade above this line. And then our other equation here, -1 is my y-intercept. And in front of the x is a minus sign again, so that means -1. So we're going to go down 1 and right 1. Put a few extra dots in both directions to make my line. And y is greater than, it's not equal to, there's no underline, so this is going to be a dotted line as well. So that means we're not including any points on that line either. And then y is greater, so we're going to shade above that line. So they overlap here above the purple line. So any ordered pair that fits into that shaded region is a solution to our system of inequalities. The one thing that I didn't have here in examples was that if you multiply or divide by a negative, you flip the inequality. So that's a review, but I just want to remind you that if you have to multiply or divide by a negative number, then you have to flip that inequality symbol. So don't forget that little piece of information.